Hi, I'm Malaya. Let me share a bit about my little world with you. Lily is my dream girl. I absolutely adore her brown hair, and she just has this magical weighing, so yes, she's our little princess. Jack, on the other hand, is so serious, so composed, that he didn't care much for smiling. You could tickle him, and he would just stare at you so intensely like he was studying you. I thought they were the perfect family. But one day, Malaya told me she wasn't happy and that she thought she might leave. I told her we supported her 100%, that one good parent is far better than two broken ones. My son, well, he's been living here for 11 months now. He's had no criminal record, and he hasn't been involved with the kids in 3 years. His relationship with Malaya had quickly deteriorated after Jack was born. She told me she wanted out, and we stood by her. The truth is, I don't know what happened to him. Maybe the pressures of supporting a family. He started drinking, using drugs, and eventually just stopped caring. Malaya grew tired and left. She went to court for sole custody of the children, and we supported her through it. After Malaya separated from Cody and returned to her mother's house, about 6 to 7 months later, she told me she was thinking of dating again. I told her it sounded like a great idea. She met someone, and she even posted pictures of them together. They were only together for a few months, and she later shared with me that it didn't work out. She found him to be a bit controlling, and she wasn't happy with how he treated the kids. Malaya truly was everything a grandmother could wish for in a mother. She was an amazing mom, patient, calm, and always loving. I admired her because she never raised her voice, and she had more patience than I did when I was a mother. But things started to change when she met Daniel. She told us about him and believed it would go somewhere, so I was happy for her. I told her, as long as he makes you happy, the kids will be happy. We kept in touch, celebrating the children's birthdays and Christmas together. But then, we began to notice a shift. The last time they visited us, in the summer before Jack's birthday, Malaya seemed more distant. She even mentioned that Daniel didn't like coming to visit us, as he thought she was coming to see Cody. This change marked the beginning of her growing distance from us. Things at Malaya's home began to take a darker turn. They had locked the doors, and Jack would often be left alone, not knowing exactly what was happening. I couldn't understand why she stayed there when she could have gone to her grandmother's house or Bob Hill's. We tried so many times to help, but she chose to stay. She had been at her grandmother's before moving in with Daniel. Daniel, with 2 children from a previous marriage, didn't seem to care for Malaya's kids at all. It was clear that things weren't right when I saw a photo of Jack on his school's Facebook page. He had a black eye, dated December 13, 2024, 5 months before he and Lily went missing. I asked Daniel about it, but he didn't respond. However, in private Facebook messages, he admitted Jack often had black eyes. He said Lily even had a black eye around the time they disappeared, caused by a Tonka truck she had knocked over that hit her face. Still, he seemed to suggest that Jack was clumsy and often fell. It was also evident that the kids weren't just being clumsy, they were aggressive with each other. They would throw things, and at times, it felt like the house was just a place where they were left to fend for themselves. The situation was getting worse, and the signs of trouble were impossible to ignore. I couldn't understand why Malaya was still there. Someone had hurt my grandkids. I felt like I was failing them, letting it all slip away. 3 months before they went missing, we even hired a U-Haul truck to move her back to her grandmother's house. We had a big beach trip planned near Red Cliff, but she refused to leave. She didn't want to move. Who would want to stay in a place where rats were in the walls? The more I saw of the condition of the house, the more I realized it was nothing like I knew Malaya. She was always so clean, meticulous about herself, her kids, and our home. But this place looked like a refugee camp, dirty and disorganized. I was shocked when I walked in to see Malaya again. She seemed almost numb, speaking in a monotone voice. But I understood. I knew Malaya wasn't easily stirred. Still, it was clear that she was in shock, not knowing how to react. When I found out the kids were missing, I thought they must have gotten lost in the woods. The area around the house was so dense, and their toys were scattered all over the yard. But when I saw her, when I saw the place she was living, it hit me. She was oddly calm. I couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't know what to do next. I blamed myself for not waking up earlier that day. Maybe if I had, none of this would have happened. That's why I was crying. As the search for Lily and Jack continued, the weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. When we arrived at Malaya's place that Saturday morning, the woods seemed endless, and the silence was overwhelming. The kids loved playing near their fort, and we decided to start searching there, hoping to find some trace of them. But the longer we searched, the more it seemed like they had vanished without a trace. Malaya, still holding her baby Meadow, wandered around the property, talking to different groups of people. But there was something about her that felt distant, disconnected. I couldn't tell if it was shock or something deeper. She was speaking in a way that seemed almost rehearsed, as if she was going through the motions without truly feeling anything. When I finally returned to the house, Malaya was still calm, but her demeanor felt off. It was almost like she had resigned herself to the unknown. It was at that moment that I realized how much I had underestimated the situation. As a mother and a grandmother, I wanted to believe that everything would turn out okay, but with every passing minute, my doubts grew. Where were the kids? Why hadn't Malaya reached out for help sooner? The questions remained unanswered. As the search for Lily and Jack dragged on, tensions among the family began to rise. The more we learned about Malaya's relationship with Daniel, the more uneasy I became. There were whispers, accusations, things that didn't sit right with me. Malaya had always been the loving, devoted mother, but ever since she'd gotten involved with Daniel, there had been a noticeable shift. She had told us about him, expressing that she thought things could go somewhere, and at first, I was happy for her. But as time went on, I began to see the cracks forming. It was clear that Daniel didn't have the same fondness for Malaya's children as she did. In fact, he didn't seem to care much for them at all. I had heard rumors about him being rough with the kids, but it wasn't until I saw a photo of Jack with a black eye that my concerns grew into something darker. As we continued our search, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something more was at play here. Malaya, once so open and loving, had grown distant, almost as if she were hiding something. I couldn't help but wonder if she knew more than she was letting on. The silence between us was deafening, and the more I learned, the less I understood. As the days passed, the situation grew increasingly complicated. The longer Lily and Jack were missing, the more difficult it became to understand what had truly happened. There was so much uncertainty, and the tension within the family was palpable. After their disappearance, things took a sharp turn. A family argument broke out, sparked by suspicions and accusations about Daniel's role in the children's disappearance. Some of Malaya's family members believed that Daniel had something to do with it, especially after learning about his possible involvement with drugs. The truth was, we didn't know who to trust anymore. Malaya's family was shaken, and her mother, Janie, was furious when these suspicions were voiced. It all came to a head when the topic of Daniel's drug use was brought up. The more we uncovered about his past, the more I feared for the children's safety. Malaya had kept her distance from the family during this time, and when I finally managed to get through to her, she was reluctant to speak about anything in detail. She seemed overwhelmed, as if the weight of the situation had broken her. As the search for the children continued, I couldn't help but feel the growing gap between Malaya and the rest of us. Her silence, her withdrawal, it felt like she was keeping something hidden, and the deeper I went into this painful search, the more I realized the painful truth. We might never have all the answers. The days turned into weeks, and the search for Lily and Jack stretched on with no sign of them. It became more than just a search for two missing children. It was a journey into the heart of a family unraveling. Malaya's behavior had changed so drastically that it was hard to recognize the woman I once knew. Her calm demeanor became unsettling, and with each passing day, I found myself questioning everything she had told me. The pain of not knowing where my grandkids were was suffocating, but what hurt even more was the growing distance between us. I remember the night when everything seemed to reach its breaking point. Malaya had disappeared with Meadow, taking her away from the safety of her mother's home. I couldn't understand why she would leave, especially after everything that had happened. The tension was unbearable. I later learned from Daniel that Malaya was on the run, fleeing to the reserve with Meadow in tow. The revelation shook me to my core. She was not only hiding from the authorities, but from her own family. The more I tried to reach out, the more she pulled away. The pain of this whole situation was overwhelming. I just wanted the kids back, but it felt like everything was falling apart. Where were they? Would we ever find them? And what had really happened? The truth was slipping further away, and the hopelessness began to settle in.